Hey, shalom, shalom. First off, giving all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, bahasham, Yahawashi, bahasham, HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles of Great Millstone, and honors to you brothers that are pushing the gospel of YAHAWAH, bahasham, Yahawashi, in all sincerity, diligence, and truth. And peace and grace be upon the house of David, which is the elect, the men, women, and children that are predestined to receive salvation and to be the first fruits of the kingdom of heaven, which is the kingdom of Israel. So I just wanted to do a lesson, Lord willing, maybe edifying to the elect. I was doing some reading, and some researching, some studying, and I just wanted to tie in, through the spirit, the prophetic Bablyon. All right, our scriptures calls the daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, mystery, Babylon the Great. Tie it into Esau, Edom, because when you read specifically, this be centered around Jeremiah 49 chapter and Jeremiah 50th chapter. When you read the judgment, that the Lord sent by way of Jeremiah to the various different nations, when you read the judgment of Edom, and then when you read the judgment of Babylon, it's basically the same. It's the same judgment. All right, they both get the same judgment, kind of right down to the T. All right, to the same words, and through the Spirit. All right, that shows that Babylon the Great. All right, first it shows that ancient Babylon, Babylon in the New Testament, I should say, and Babylon in the prophecies is not the same Babylon of ancient Babylon. All right, because the way ancient Babylon went out is not according to how prophetic Babylon. That's what I'm going to refer to as Babylon the Great. Or the future, the future Babylon, which we know is America. It didn't go out. It wasn't destroyed the way that Jeremiah prophesies of Babylon being destroyed in the 50th chapter. All right, and in the 51st chapter. Isaiah the 13th chapter. All right, Isaiah 14. These Babylons, all right, that is being spoken of, is speaking of the Babylon that we are in right now. All right, and Edom would be the nation that would be in rulership over this prophetic Babylon. All right, so Lord willing, I'm gonna try to compact. There's a lot of information, but I'm trying to compact this as concise as possible. But we're gonna start with, just to prove. I got a video to prove the way Babylon, ancient Babylon, went out was by way of Cyrus the Great, which was a Persian. So I got this little clip. It's 22 minutes long, but I'm only going to play about 4 minutes of it, 4 or 5 minutes of it. It's from Kings and Generals. This is a very good channel if you want to learn about history. Secular history, and tying it into biblical history as well. So we're going to start off with that.
Adaratu. By 542 BC, Cyrus's attention was focused on another great power ripe for conquest, the so-called Neo-Babylonian Empire. Far from the good old days of Nebuchadnezzar II, the current Babylonian king, Nabonidus, wasn't a good ruler. He diverted favor and funding away from Babylonian priests, neglected the common people, stopped renovation works on the city, and even cancelled the New Year's festival of the great god Marduk. Discontent was rife, and loyalty to the king and his son Belshazzar was at an all-time low, and Cyrus was all too aware of this state of affairs. Persian infiltrators began spreading word throughout Nabonidus' empire that Cyrus intended to restore Marduk's supremacy in Babylon. In 540, sensing that the time was right, Cyrus dispatched his army to seize Babylon-dominated Elam with the help of a native revolt. This blow brought Nabonidus back from his retirement and to Babylon, where he took control of the army. Notoriously, he seized the sacred statues of his many domains in order to ensure their obedience. The next year, Cyrus and his increasingly powerful army marched south to invade the Babylonian Empire, but he would do it as a liberator. However, their progress was blocked for weeks by a swollen tributary of the Tigris River just north of Opis. Although the obstacle was overcome by Persian troops digging many channels around the river to divert its course, this delay allowed Nabonidus to assemble a large army and advance north. The king himself, however, remained ensconced at Sippar, while General Gabara conducted the war. The battle took place in the last days of September near Opis. What we do know is that Cyrus's forces, fighting under the gold and red Shabaz standard, won yet another crushing victory. Opis was plundered, while Gabara surrendered, earning a place in the Persian hierarchy. Nabonidus went south by river. Rather than facing another hostile army in the field, Cyrus instead arrived with his vast host outside the massive, sprawling city of Babylon to find Nabonidus's armies bivouacked inside, braced for an extensive siege. It would, even to the indomitable Cyrus, have been a truly daunting sight. Its defences included multiple layers of moat, the great Euphrates River itself, and two colossal walls, inner and outer, 80 feet high or more, stretching for 15 miles around the city's near triangular circumference.
When I was a student, I'd write long essays that I'd work on for days, but now I'm
Tidy grid-patterned districts were crisscrossed with streets and occupied by grand-scale residences, temples, palaces, and, most sturdy of all, the great citadel of the royal guard next to the Ishtar Gate. As he usually did, King Cyrus called together his advisors for a council of war immediately upon arrival, and debated upon how to best gain the city. A full-scale assault, they decided, would result in massive casualties, so they decided on a complex strategy relying on subtlety, intelligence, and timing.
So this is speaking about how Cyrus overthrew Babylon, all right? And during that time, you had, as the scripture says, Belshazzar was the co-regent king of Babylon during that with his father Nabonidus. Okay, so as you see here, let me go back and see a little bit.
Upon how to best gain the city. A full-scale assault, they decided, would result in massive casualties, so they decided on a complex strategy.
So right here, so it says they decided on a complex strategy relying on subtlety, intelligence, and timing. So when Cyrus, overtook Babylon, it wasn't of a full-scale assault. All right, it wasn't a lot of death. It wasn't a lot of bloodshed. Okay, because when you read in the scriptures, let's get that in Isaiah. Where is it? I'll have it up here. Oh, right here. Isaiah, the 13th chapter, right? It says prophecies of Babylon. Okay. This is, and like I said, that's why I refer to as prophetic Babylon, because Babylon, although there was an ancient Babylon, these prophecies that Isaiah and Jeremiah wrote about, okay, specifically here in the 13th chapter and Isaiah and Jeremiah the 50th chapter, we're speaking about the future Babylon, which once again is Babylon the Great. It says, I'm going to jump straight to the point. Isaiah 13, verse 17, it says, "Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall delight not in it. Their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces, and they shall have no pity upon the fruit of the womb. Their eye shall not spare children." All right. So now when you read this, and if you were to apply this to ancient Babylon, then you would have to assess that, well, ancient Babylon, when Cyrus came in there, he must have, destroyed it. He must have went through there with a terrible destruction, because it says what? That they shall have no pity upon the fruit of the womb. So women with children will be getting destroyed, and their eye shall not spare children. So even children would be destroyed, right? But when you read in secular history, okay, the way that Cyrus destroyed, conquered Babylon, ancient Babylon, it wasn't in a destructive manner. All right, so let's continue listening to that.
Relying on subtlety, intelligence, and timing. First, to maintain the illusion of a conventional siege, the Achaemenid king split his army in two, stationing one on the eastern bank of the Euphrates, where the river entered Babylon in the north, and the other downstream, where the river left it. Cyrus himself took every non-combatant, including servants, slaves, and attendants, north, arriving soon thereafter at a basin, which had been excavated years earlier to temporarily redirect the river. Putting his men to work for a similar end, Cyrus had a wide channel dug from the disused basin to the river, and chopped giant palm trees down to act as levees to redirect the water. When the earth was removed, a great portion of the Euphrates' flow was diverted into the basin rather than flowing towards Babylon. While Xenophon informs us that the water level before this ingenious work was over 2 men deep, Herodotus states that after, the Euphrates was only waist deep. The impassable river was now a viable entry route into the city. That very night, carefully timed because it marks the advent of a great festival of music, drinking, and revelry in Babylon.
Now, that right there is written in the scriptures. Daniel gives an account of that, and Daniel's the 5th chapter. Let's get to that real quick. Daniel chapter 5, and I'm going through this history just to set up the linkage with prophetic Babylon and America, which once again is ran and ruled by Edom. All right, so prophetic Babylon is ran by the Edomites. All right, so it says Belshazzar's feast. It says Daniel's 5:1. Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before the thousands. All right, and this is the feast that the commentator were just speaking about, that was going on during the siege that Cyrus the Great, the Persian, he did during during his Salakia, during his entry into Babylon. All right, his takeover of Babylon. So I'm gonna jump. Okay, I'm gonna jump while where it go? Verse here we go. Daniel chapter 5, verse 24. It says, Then was part of the hand sent unto him, and the writing was written. And this is the writing that was written, many, many tickle Upharsin. This is interpretation of the thing. Many, the Most High has numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tickle, thou art weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Paris or Upharsin, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Okay, so and then when you read down, it says, in that night Belshazzar the king of Chaldeans of the Chaldeans was slain. And the same thing was we about to hear here. Same thing happened.
Cyrus had Gabara infiltrate the city via the diminished river, which the celebratory citizens or guards of Nabonidus' capital didn't seem to have noticed. The defenders, lulled into a false sense of security by their great strength of defense and enfeebled by drink, were unable to resist the Persian infiltration. By daybreak, Prince Belshazzar was dead, the gates were opened, and the city was under Achaemenid control. Nabonidus, who had actually been in nearby Borsippa, was surrendered to the Persian monarch and then allowed to take a comfortable and, by all accounts, happy exile in Comania. 2 weeks after he captured the city and dealt with all the necessary formalities, on October 26, 539, Cyrus entered Babylon to a rapturous welcome.
Now you hear that? 2 weeks after his 2 weeks after he basically took over Babylon, killed Belshazzar, he entered into Babylon with a rapturous welcome. Okay, so the people of Babylon actually welcomed Cyrus into Babylon as their ruler. All right, and this is an account here from Britannica.com. It says, go straight to the point. It says, next, Cyrus turned to Babylonia, where the dissatisfaction of the people with the ruler Nabonidus gave him a pretext for invading the lowlands. The conquest was quick, for even the priest of Marduk, the national deity of the great metropolis of Babylon, had become estranged from Nabonidus. In October 539 BCE, the great city of the ancient world fell to the Persians. Okay? Fell to the Persians. And now, when you read the scriptures of Babylon's, let's go back to Isaiah 13, right? It says, Babylon, Isaiah 13, verse 19, it says, in Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? Now, when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, what happened? It rained down fire and brimstone. It was completely destroyed, right, with fire. But when Cyrus overtook Babylon and Babylon became a province of the kingdom of the Persian and Medes, it wasn't overthrown with fire. Okay? It was a strategic strike that took out the king, and then Cyrus went in there and was welcomed as basically, the new emperor, the new king. It says, it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. So now you would have to ask, well, if that didn't happen to ancient Babylon, then what is this speaking of? Okay? What is this speaking of if Babylon, ancient Babylon, didn't go out this way? Let's see if there's a little bit more here.
Restoring Marduk's priesthood to its elevated position and tending to the needs of the people. To further show his benevolence, the new ruler kept taxes to a minimum, completed several public works, and returned idols seized by Nabonidus. The verse account of Nabonidus sums up what the people, or at least the favored priests, may have felt. They're like prisoners when the prisons are opened. Liberty is restored to those who were surrounded by oppression. All rejoice to look upon him as king. In a famous act that would gain him unabashed plaudits within the pages of the Hebrew Bible, Cyrus the Great returned thousands of Jews who had previously been deported as part of Nebuchadnezzar's so-called Babylonian exile to Jerusalem.
Okay, so now let's go. So now that we got that history of how ancient Babylon was overtaken or overthrown, and we see that it wasn't overthrown as Sodom and Gomorrah was overthrown, let's go here. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49, and we're going to start at 7. It says, prophecy against Edom. Concerning Edom, thus saith the Lord of hosts, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is the counsel purged from the prudence? Is their wisdom vanished? Flee ye, turn back, dwell deep, O inhabitants of Dedan. For I will bring the calamity of Esau upon him, the time that I will visit him. If grape gatherers come to thee, would they not leave some greening grapes? If thieves by night, they will destroy till they have enough. Okay, speaking of basically, if a thief or a robber comes, they would just take what they what they need, right? But the Lord said what? But I have made Esau bare. All right, so the Lord said he was going to utterly destroy Esau. There wasn't going to be anything left remaining for in the house of Esau, right? It says, I have uncovered his secret places. He shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not. So the Lord, it basically said that all of Esau is going to be, all of their, his descendants is going to be taken out, right? It says, leave the fatherless children, I will preserve them alive, and let the widows trust in me. All right. Babylon, because this right here is speaking of, when he's speaking about Esau here, this is speaking about mainly Babylon the Great. Now, the ones that are left of Esau after Babylon the Great is destroyed, they're going to go into captivity. Okay, that's why it says, I will preserve them alive, leave thy widows, and let thy widows trust in me. Because it says that what? That in second Ezra 16th chapter, it talks about how the wives, all right, the widows, the wives basically of the husbands that go to war, the husband shall not return. All right. Verse 12, it says, all right, it says, for I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord. Oh, Salakia, skip 12. For thus saith the Lord, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of that cup have assuredly drunken. Speaking about the Israelites, all right, and that cup is speaking about the cup of the Lord's captivity, being put down into a lower state, all right, our place, being ransacked by these heathens. Okay, because ultimately Israel is supposed to be the memorial. That's what the word Zion means, the memorial of the Most High. But because we went off, all right, and started following the ways of these heathens, okay, and turned from our power, the Lord judged us for it. Okay, but it says, but they, behold, they whose judgment was not to drink of that cup have assuredly drunken, and art thou he that shall altogether go unpunished. So shall Esau, all right, the basis of man, all right, the wicked, as the scriptures, as the Bible, the wicked that the Bible speaks of, shall they go unpunished? Thou shalt not go unpunished, but thou shalt surely drink of it. For I have sworn by myself, saith the Lord, that Basra shall become a desolation, a reproach, a waste, and a curse. And all the cities thereof shall be perpetual wastes. Now, this is once again, Basra was the capital of Edom. So when the Lord speaks of the capital, it's speaking of the whole country. It says, I have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent unto the heathen, saying, go ye together and come up against her and rise up to battle. For lo, I will make thee small among the heathen and despised among the men. Thy terribleness have deceived thee. All right. And when you go to a different translation there, all right, it says, you have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride. And that's what Esau does, man. Okay. Esau, because he uses fear, all right, he's a fear monger. And that's how he basically gets, the nations to drink of his wine. Okay. That's why when you see this whole thing with the whole emic that's going on right now, what are they pushing out? They pushing out nothing but, fear mongering. All right. Or he uses the fear of his military. All right. The fear of dropping bombs on countries, the fear of sanctions, which is basically taxation. That's how he controls the ways of societies, and get these other nations to basically drink of her wine. All right. And do their worshiping their image. But it says what? You have been deceived by the fear you inspire in others and by your own pride. Because ultimately, the Lord still has your number. All right. And you're not going to go unpunished for the wickedness, all right, and the treachery and the destruction, as the scripture says, the destroying mountain that Esau has become. All right. The hammer of the earth, which speaks of Babylon, but once again, prophetic Babylon in Edom is one and the same. So it says, and also Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. Now, this isn't speaking about the ancient, lands of Edom, okay? Because the ancient lands of Edom, people don't go by the ancient land of Edom and hiss at all the plagues thereof. Actually, let me see something. When you go to, what is it called? Petra, right? Images. This is where ancient Edom land. Okay. Let's see here. Here we go. Not that one. Actually, here we go. You see here it says Kingdom of Edom, and now the capital is right here. It says as Petra, right? And when you go there, this is Petra, and this is actually revered as a place that is looked at as historical site. Okay, a lot of people go visit this land. All right, Petra. A lot of tourists go there, and it's basically looked at. Like I said, I think if I'm not mistaken, that movie Indiana Jones. One of the Indiana Joneses was actually filmed in Petra, which once again Petra is in Edom. So this prophecy that Jeremiah is writing of didn't happen to the ancient land of Edom. Okay, but this is once again speaking of America, which is prophetic Babylon the Great, which is ruled by the Edomites, the nation of Edom. So it says, everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. And that ultimate plague is going to be the plague of the missiles of the fire. Okay, and once America is destroyed by that fire, all nations, when they see that smoke, okay, when the smoke settles, when the dust settles, and this place is just a place of desert creatures, everybody's going to hiss at the plagues of it. It says right here, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, no man shall abide there, neither shall a son of man dwell in it. Now that's the same thing that was written in Isaiah the 13th chapter about Babylon the Great. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it dwell in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and the owls shall dwell there, and the satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places, for her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. You see? Now you see how that connects directly to what the judgment, the prophecy that was given to Edom, all right? And that's not speaking of ancient, the ancient land of Edom, but this is speaking of Babylon the Great, aka America. All right. It says, behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the inhabitants of the strong. Now check this out. It says, I will come like a lion from the thickets of Jordan, leaping on the sheep of the pasture. I will chase Edom from its land. I will appoint the leader of my choice. For who is like me? Who can challenge me? What ruler can oppose my will? Okay. So the Lord said, I will come like a lion from the thickets of Jordan. Now let's go here to Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, verse 7. It says, the lion is come up out of his thicket. The destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. Now this was speaking back during this time, because this is twofold. Okay. Speaking of Nebuchadnezzar during the time of the Babylonians, when he was come up to destroy, invade Judah, right? But this is, moving into time right now. This is applied to Yahawashi, okay? Because Yahawashi is the one who is going to come from his thicket, all right, as the lion of the tribe of Judah, to do what? To be the destroyer of the Gentiles, all right? Starting with Esau, Edom. It says, he is gone forth from out of his place to make thy land desolate and thy cities shall be laid waste without inhabitant. Okay, because I remember the elder Tahar had mentioned this a while back, that the things that the curses and the destructions that happened to Israel is going to be applied to Israel's enemies, pursuant to Deuteronomy 30th chapter, about the curses that came upon us shall fall upon our adversaries, our enemies, and a part of that is what? The destruction of our heritage, right? And that's what's going to happen to Esau, Edom. Let's get that in Isaiah 63, verse 1. It says, "Who is this that cometh from Edom and with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling with the greatness of his strength." All right. Going back to the destroyer of the Gentiles coming out of his thicket, the lion, all right, which is who? Once again, Yahawashi, pursuant to Revelation, the 5th chapter, the lion of the tribe of Judah. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth the winepress, the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and all of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in my anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiments. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeem is come. All right. And this is a vision that Isaiah had of Yahawashi coming from the east. All right. Coming from the east toward the west, and toward where? Babylon the Great, aka America. All right. So now let's go back. It says, "Behold, he shall come out of his come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the inhabitants, a habitation of the strong. But I will suddenly make him run away from her, who is a chosen man, that I may point over her. For who is like unto me, and who will appoint me the time? Who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord, that he have taken against Edom, and his purposes that he have purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall. At the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea." All right. So when Edom, once again, this is speaking about Babylon the Great, aka America, when Edom is destroyed, it said the earth is moved at the noise of their fall. Let's see what that says in the NLT. It says the earth will shake with the noise of Edom's fall. Now, what will cause the earth to shake? Okay, none other than the ICBMs, the missiles, all right, that will be shot off from one ends of the earth and bombard Babylon the Great, America, and make it desolate with fire. All right, as it is written in, let's get that real quick. Revelation, the 17th chapter, verse where is it at? 17 verse 16. It says, "And the 10 horns, which the 10 horns represents the NATO and EU, okay, the NATO and EU nations, which the whore sits upon, which the whore is, let's get it. Revelation 17 verse 5. It says, I started at 3, and I started at 3. "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication." Okay. "And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great." Okay, this whore was also known as Babylon the Great. the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints. And why was that? Because America, all right, is defiled with the blood of the Israelites. All right, starting all the way back from when Christopher Columbus came, all right, and destroyed the natives that were here, Gad and Reuben. Okay, it said that what Christopher Columbus didn't let his sword didn't put his sword down for an hour. All right, and then when the transatlantic slave trade, took place around the 1600s, you had the Southern tribe that was destroyed, that was brought over here to serve captivity and was destroyed. And after slavery, the 100 years of lynching, and even up until this day, you have the Israelites that are blood is being shed here. Okay, by way of the various different ways, the cops, all right, the ghettos and the hoods that Esau, the institutionalized racism, all right, all this America is built on the blood of the Israelites. That's why I said, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahawashi. And I saw her, and when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. All right, so now let's jump to verse 16. It says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." So how does a nations, because once again, the beast represents a conglomerate of nations, specifically the EU, all right, and the NATO countries. So how can a nation burn another nation with fire? None other by way of what? These missiles that they have, okay, which the Lord had Esau create for his own destruction. Okay, that's why it says, verse 17, "For the Most High has put it in their hearts to fulfill his will." So this is the will of YAHAWAH bahasham Yahawashi for Babylon the Great, the whore, okay, which once again, prophetic Babylon being tied to Edom, all right, is going to be destroyed by fire. Ancient Babylon was not destroyed by fire. All right, ancient Babylon was overthrown. The rulership of ancient Babylon was overthrown in a subtle strategic strike by Cyrus the Great, and the people that were underneath Belshazzar during that time and his father Nabonidus, they rejoiced at Cyrus coming, okay, and taking out Belshazzar and Nabonidus. All right, but Babylon the Great, everybody's going to be destroyed that's left here, man. Which is why we're going to need to be redeemed through the salvation of Yahawashi and the chariots, which Yahawashi spoke of. All right, which Revelation the 18th chapter speaks of how we're going to be delivered out of Babylon. Because when that fire comes, there's no fleeing on foot, okay, from the downfall of Babylon the Great. There's no way that you can be taken out of Babylon the Great other than by way of the chariots. That's why it says here, Revelation 18 verse 4, it says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, and be that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." All right, and how are we going to come out? Well, the hopeful elect is going to come out by way of Yahawashi, like I said before, redeeming us by way of the chariots. This is Isaiah 26, verse 20. It says, "Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers." All right, and those chambers are the chariots, which you have, these astronomers and Esau and his NASA and his Air Force. They're all speaking about the UFOs now. Okay, this is because why? They're showing themselves, and those vehicles are the vehicles, the chariots of Israel, the chariots of our salvation. All right, the vehicles of the way that we're going to be redeemed out of the destruction of Babylon. It says, "And shut thy doors about thee, hide thyself as it were for a little moment, until the indignation, the righteous anger, be overpassed. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place." Hey, we just read that in Jeremiah, right? 49, it says, behold, he shall come like a thicket, or Shalaka, he shall come like a lion from the swelling of Jordan against the inhabitant of the strong. And then as in Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, it talks about the Salakia, Isaiah 63rd chapter, it speaks about the Lord shall, who is this coming from Edom with dyed garments from Basra, this that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. All right, mighty to save. So let's go back. Isaiah 26, it says, for behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood and shall no more cover her slain. Okay, so if you're left, whoever is left or in Babylon the Great, okay, and other parts of the earth is going to get hit with fire too, but ultimately the great judgment is here in Babylon the Great. Whoever is left here is going to feel the indignation of YAHAWAH bahasham Yahawashi, which is what? That fire. All right, that's why it says, come my people into thy chambers. All right, as YAHAWAH bahasham Yahawashi said in Revelation 18th chapter, come my people, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. And that plague is what? That fire. All right. So going back here, it says, Jeremiah 49, verse 21, the earth is moved at the noise of their fall. All right. So the earth is shaken at the noise of their fall. And that shaking is going to be by way of those ICBMs hitting. All right. Let me go back to Revelation 18. Jump down to 20. It says, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High has avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence. All right. Thus with violence. And that violence is that great shaking that the earth is going to have when what? Shall the great city of Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all. So this Babylon right here, once again, is not speaking of the ancient Babylon, because ancient Babylon wasn't thrown down with violence. Okay. And it's still it's still inhabited to this day. All right, which is where modern day Iraq is at. It says, behold, going back to Jeremiah 49, verse 22, behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle and spread his wings over Basra, tying into Isaiah, the 63rd chapter. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her pangs. Right? So now let's go to Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, which is the next chapter. So this is the prophecy against Babylon. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but this whole chapter is a good chapter. But when you read of Babylon's destruction, it says, let's see where we want to start. Let's start at 13. It says, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited. Now, we just saw that when Cyrus overthrew Babylon's rulers, it still was inhabited. All right. Matter of fact, the people of Babylon was actually of a more happiness than when they was being ruled by Belshazzar. Okay. It says, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. Now hold on. This is the same thing. Let's put this right here. Same thing that was spoken of Edom. Also, Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished and shall hiss at all the plagues thereof. Now let's see how many similarities are written about Babylon and Edom. It says, put yourselves in array against Babylon around about. All ye that bend a bow, shoot at her, spared no arrows, for she had sinned against the Lord. Now, ancient Babylon was not destroyed by innumerable amount of arrows. All right, and those arrows is speaking of, once again, the missiles. It says, shout against her round about. She hath given her hand, her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is the vengeance of the Lord. Take vengeance upon her, as she has done, do unto her. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handleth the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword, they shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his land. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria have devoured him. Speaking about the 10 tribes. It says, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, which is Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, has broken his bones. Therefore saith the Lord of hosts, the power of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land as I have punished the king of Assyria. Now, this once again is speaking prophetically of Edom, okay? Because Edom it represents Assyria, all right? And when I say Edom, I'm speaking about America, all right? America represents Babylon. It represents Syria. Assyria, it represents Egypt, represents Sodom, okay? That's why it's called Babylon the Great. It says, I will bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. And the sins of Judah, they shall be not found, for I will pardon them whom I reserve. Now, this hasn't even happened yet, okay? Because this is going to take place when Israel, the remnant of Israel, is redeemed by the hand of Yahawashi, okay? And that's that new covenant spoken about. Let's get it. And Jeremiah, the 31st chapter. Jeremiah 31, verse 31. It says, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I have made with their fathers in the day that I have taken them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put in my law in their inward part, and write it in their heart, and will be their power, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. For they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. You see? So when Babylon the Great, all right, or prophetic Babylon is destroyed, that act is going to be coupled with the elect of Israel having their sins pardoned and not remembered anymore. And therefore, that's why I believe that's in Psalms, the 32nd chapter. It says, blessed is the man whom sins is not imputed unto him. Okay? Because through who? Through Yahawashi, all right, in the blood of Yahawashi, the sins of the elect are pardoned. Okay? But it says here, this is once again Jeremiah the 50th chapter speaking about the destruction of Babylon. When Babylon is destroyed, it's going to tie into Israel, the elect of Israel, starting with the elect of Israel, having their sins being no more found, because that's when the new covenant will be fully realized. All right, because Yahawashi is going to return during the destruction of prophetic Babylon, all right, or Babylon the Great. And that's where our salvation is going to be tied to. And let me get that. So this is a commentary. This is a commentary. Speaking of Jeremiah the 50th chapter, right? So we go here. It says, it says, as in Isaiah's prophecies, the destruction of Babylon and the deliverance of Israel out of it seems designed to typify the evangelical triumphs of all believers over the power of darkness, which we know that the believers is speaking about the Israelites, the elect of Israel, and the great salvation wrought out by our Lord Yahawashi. So Jeremiah's prophecies of the same events seem designed to point to the apocalyptic triumphs of the gospel church in the latter days over the New Testament Babylon, which that New Testament Babylon is speaking is that's what they're talking about in Revelation 18th chapter, okay, which is America. It says, so Jeremiah prophesied of this the vision that was given unto John the Revelator, okay? And that vision that was given to John the Revelator was not talking about ancient Babylon. It was talking about the new Babylon that wasn't even established during the time of Jeremiah. I mean, during the time of John the Revelator. That Babylon the Great is speaking about now, all right, America. It says, many passages in Revelation being borrowed hence. The kingdom of Babylon being much larger and stronger than any of the kingdoms here prophesied against, its fall was the more considerable in itself, and having been more oppressive to the people of God than any of the other, the prophet is very copious upon this subject for the comfort of the captives, and what was foretold to the general often before is here more particularly described with a great deal of prophetic heat as well as light. The terrible judgments the Most High had in store for Babylon and the glorious blessing he had in store for his people that were captive there are intermixed and counterchanged in the prophecy of this chapter. For Babylon was destroyed to make way for the turning again of the captivity of the Most High's people. You see that? Babylon was destroyed. And this is speaking about prophetic future Babylon, right? Was destroyed to make way for the turning again of the captivity of the Most High's people. Because when Babylon, ancient Babylon, was overthrown, Cyrus did allow the exiles of Judah back to Jerusalem, but guess what? We still was under the Persian rulership. And then after the Persian rulership, we was under the Greek rulership. And after the Greek rulership, we was under the Roman rulership. So this Babylon being destroyed, the ancient Babylon being overthrown, because once again, it wasn't destroyed, being overthrown, did not make way for Israel to never be in captivity again, because we still was in captivity. All right. Now, I'm gonna jump. Hey, in this commentary, you read it. You know, there's a lot of meat in there. There's some bones in it. Where it is, but there's a lot of meat in it as well. But I'm gonna jump to where is it? Here we go. It says the mercy promised to the Israel of God, which shall not only accompany but accrue from the destruction of Babylon. All right. And that's why when you read Revelation, the 18th chapter, it says what? Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High has avenged you on her. All right. That was the mercy that was promised. Babylon the Great being destroyed was, going back to this commentary, it says, the mercy promised to the Israel of God, which shall not only accompany, but accrue from the destruction of Babylon. So Babylon the Great being destroyed will be accompanied by the mercy that the Most High promised unto the Israel of God, which the Israel of God is speaking of the elect of Israel, the remnant of Israel. Okay, so let's read this a little bit. It says, the Most High will return their captivity. They shall be released out of their bondage and brought again to their own habitations as sheep that were scattered to their fold. They still retain the title of the land of Canaan. It is their habitation still. The discontinuance of their possessions was not the destruction of their right, but now they shall recover the enjoyment of it again. He will restore their prosperity. They shall not only live, but live comfortably in their own land again. They shall feed upon Carmel and Bashan, the richest and most fruitful parts of the country. The sheep shall be gathered from the deserts to the which they were dispersed and put again into good pasture. And that's speaking about Israel being scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, because we are the sheep of YAHAWAH, bahasham, Yahawashi. All right, that's why he said what? The lost sheep of the house of Israel. It says, which their soul should be satisfied with though they shall come hungry to it, having been so long stinted and straitened and kept short, yet they shall find enough satiation, find enough to satiate them, and shall have their hearts be satiated with it. They inquired the way to Zion, where the Most High was to be served and worshipped. This was what they chiefly aimed at in their return. But the Most High, excuse me, but the Most High, will not only bring them thither, but bring them also to Carmel and Bashan, where they shall abundantly feed themselves. Note, those that return to the Most High in their duty shall find true satisfaction of their souls in doing so. For those that seek first the kingdom of the Most High and their righteousness, that's what Yahawashi said, that aimed to make their habitations in Zion, the holy hill, shall have other things added to them, even all the comforts of Ephraim and Gilead, the fruitful hill. All right, the Most High will pardon their iniquity. This is the root of their rest. All right, and that iniquity being pardoned, once again, will be when Yahawashi returns. All right, let's jump. All right, it says reasons are given for these severe dealings with Babylon. Those that are employed in this war may, if they please, know the grounds of it. Okay, because let's go back to Jeremiah the 50th chapter. It tells you that Jeremiah 50, we'll start at verse 22. It says, a sound of battle is in the land and a great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Ancient Babylon did not become a desolation. All right. And ancient Babylon wasn't a hammer of the whole entire earth. But guess who is? America is. Okay. they have what? Garrisons set up in, I think, about 80% of the countries of the world. You see? It says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. Thou was not aware. And America isn't aware, man, because America, the pride that these Edomites who have the rulership of America has, because of their domain, all right, because of their military, they think that they're unbeatable. They think that they can just go around bombing and taking over different nations' resources, and there will be no retribution. There will be no recompense. Okay, they think that they can set up, idolatry, set up witchcraft, all right, homosexuality, all these things, all right, and then spread it throughout the world, and there will be no payback for that. But yet, the Lord said, "What I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. Thou art found and are caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord." All right, and America does that, man. All right, the way, the fact that they claim to be a Bible believing nation, but then they set up everything that goes against the ways of Yahweh, bahasham, Yahawashi. All right, the lies of saying that science basically is God. Okay, their technology is more powerful than the power of the Most High. All right, they splice animals, they splice seeds, genetically modify. Okay, so they're striving against the Lord, man. It says, verse 25, the Lord has opened his armory and has brought forth the weapons of his indignation. For this is the work of the Lord of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the uttermost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. And that's what these other nations, and they're starting with Russia, Iran, okay, and the nations of the EU, they're going to do that by way of what? By those ICBM missiles. Okay, it says slay China also. It says slay all of her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, and their time of their visitation. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord our power, the vengeance of his temple. All right, who is the voice of them that flee? The elect of Israel that are going to escape out of the land of Babylon, once again, by way of the salvation of the chariots of Yahawashi and the angels. It says to declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord of our power. Hey, and that's the going to, let's see what I can use. If I use this one, Revelation, the 15th chapter, the victory that is written here. Revelation chapter 15, verse 1. It says, and I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of the Most High. Okay, and that's the times that we're coming into, man. Okay, the last plagues, all right, which is filled up with the wrath of the Most High, which is going to be poured out without mixture, okay, into the cup of his indignation, which is going to fall upon what? Babylon the Great. It says, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of the Most High. And they sang the song of Moses, the servant of the Most High, and the song of the Lamb, saying, great and marvelous are thy works, Lord, power almighty, just and true are thy ways, the King of saints. Okay. So what in that temple is speaking about the third temple, which is the spiritual temple, which is who? The elect of Israel. Okay. Says, call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow, camp against it around about, let none thereof escape. All right, and this is speaking to the nations, the archers, speaking about in the bow, speaking about the silos that hold the missiles. All right. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she has done, do unto her, for she has been proud against the Lord, against the Holy One of Israel. Hey, that's going back to Revelation, the 18th chapter. It says, verse 5, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her according to her works. And the cup which she has filled to her double. How much she has glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. Once again, ancient Babylon was not taken out in torment and sorrow. All right. The Babylonians rejoiced when Cyrus came. It says, for she hath said in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. And that's the day that we're in, that day right now, man. All right. They're talking about that consumer prices is about to go up 15 to 20%. All right. I was watching a video last night on the news. They were saying that I forgot exactly which meat product it was, but it was saying that basically it went from being $4.99 to $7.99. And this year, 2022, they expect it to go up even more, man, which is going to cause what? Famine. All right, which is a form of a famine, I should say. It says she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord power, YAHAWAH power, who judgeth her. See, Babylon is determined, is prophesied to be burned utterly, which means to be wholesomely or completely burned with fire. So when you read in Jeremiah the 50th chapter, Jeremiah is speaking about a totally different Babylon. All right, because this Babylon is to be utterly destroyed as well. But Jeremiah 50 and Revelation 18 is speaking about the same Babylon. Now, when you read, and what you're going to see, the judgment that Jeremiah speaks of Babylon in Jeremiah 50th chapter is the same judgment that he spoke of Edom in the 49th chapter. We're going to get it. It's going to just be down here. Let's just read this through as well. It says, therefore, verse 30, therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all of her men of war shall be cut off in that day. And saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord, power of hosts. Now hold on, because Jeremiah, the Lord is saying that Babylon is the most proud. But when you read, let's get something. Obadiah speaks about Edom being prideful. Okay. Obadiah 1 verse 2, it says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. All right, the vision concerning, thus saith the Lord concerning Edom. All right, it says, thou art greatly despised. The pride of thine heart has deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, who habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Okay, so Edom is also known as being prideful. A connection. Let's read on. It says, behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord, power of hosts, for thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee, and the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all around about him. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah will oppress together. Now, the children of Israel and the children of Judah was not oppressed together in ancient Babylon. All right, because the children of Israel, the 10 tribes, they were already disposed during the time of the king of Assyria. And then when you read in Second Esdras, the 13th chapter, the majority of the 10 tribes, they had made their way to a land that was never dwelt before. So the nation of Israel, speaking about the northern and southern kingdom, they were never oppressed together in ancient Babylon. Only the southern kingdom, mainly only the southern kingdom was oppressed. I'm sure there was remnants of other 10 tribes, but the mass majority of the children of Israel, the northern kingdom, were already gone at this time. All right, so why is this speaking of the children of Israel and the children of Judah being oppressed together when they weren't both together in ancient Babylon? This is speaking about modern day Babylon, aka America. It says, and all them that took them captives held them fast, they refused to let them go. And that's evident here in America, man. Verse 34, it says, their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give them rest that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. and America is going to be disquieted. All right, and it's already happening now. All right, the judgments that the Lord is bringing to this place have, people in uproars. All right, have crime rate rising. Okay, theft rate rising. All right, the so-called natural disasters, which the scripture says that the Lord has his way in the whirlwind. All right, in the clouds are the dust of his feet. That's disquieting the lands over there in the Midwest, in Colorado, Nevada, Kentucky. Why? Because, as it says here, for thy day is come and the time that I will visit thee. Hey, we're living in a time of YAHAWAH, bahasham Yahawashi, visiting Babylon the Great, man, and the world, but specifically here in Babylon, America. It says, verse 35, a sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. You see? Now, when ancient Babylon, I keep referring to it because that point has to stick. When ancient Babylon was overthrown by Cyrus the Great, the Persian, that sword didn't fall upon all of the inhabitants of Babylon. It only fell upon the army and the king. And then Cyrus went in there, and basically, when you read it here, here we go. In the Bible, Cyrus is famous for freeing the Jewish captives of Babylonia and allowing them to return to their homeland. Cyrus was also tolerant toward the Babylonians and others. He conciliated local populations by supporting local customs and even sacrificing to local deities. The capture of Babylon, all right, yeah, so right there, Cyrus, he was actually tolerant toward the Babylonians. But here, it tells you in prophetic Babylon that the sword is going to come upon the Chaldeans, which is the chief upper echelon of the Babylonians, which modern day is speaking of the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all right, the central bankers. All right, it says the inhabitants of Babylon, the citizens, upon her princes, okay, the governors, your presidents, your congressmen, mayors, and upon her wise men, your philosophers, okay, which they call themselves, the philanthropists, okay, your Bill Gates, your Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, or your scientists. So all of America, man, all of the inhabitants of America is going to get it. You see? So when they talk about, it wasn't, Esau loved to say, it wasn't me, I don't have any rulership, X, Y, and Z. Well, guess what? The Lord don't give a damn, man. All right? It's already been written that the sword is going to come upon all of you damn Edomites. All right, you Babylonians. All right, and you Edomites, not just in Babylon, America either. All right, you Edomites that are all throughout the four corners of the earth. It says a sword is upon their liars, which they're speaking about their astrologers, their monthly prognosticators, their sorcerers, and they shall dote, which that word dote means that they should be foolish, be made to be as fools. A sword is upon her mighty men, okay, their army, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses and their chariots. Now, this is the Lord is saying that this is all going to take place to Babylon. All right. Which is once again speaking of the future Babylon, Babylon the Great. A sword is upon their horses and upon their chariots and upon all the mangled people that are in the midst of her. Because what is America? They call America a melting pot. You got all nations here. All right, all of the 18 nations are in America, man. So the sword, which is speaking of that glittering sword, okay, and also the chariots, which is going to shoot out that concentrated fire, is going to be upon all of the mangled people that are in the midst of her. And they shall become as women, as a sword is upon her treasurers, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. Yeah, because that heat is going to dry up the Mississippi River, the Delaware River Gap, the Hudson, okay, whatever other lakes, the Great Lakes of Michigan, is going to completely be a desert, man. It says, "And for it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols." Therefore, the wild beast. Now check this out. Therefore, the wild beast of the desert, with the wild beasts of the islands, shall dwell there. Same thing that was written in Isaiah the 13th chapter. And the owls shall dwell there, and it shall no more be inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Now, in Isaiah the 34th chapter, speaks of Isaiah 34, verse 5. It says, "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven, behold, it shall come down upon Idumea," all right, which is the Greek way of saying Edom. Prove that real quick. Where is it? Here we go. It says, Slovakia. I just wanted to just show that Idumea. I mean, the brothers and sisters should know this, but just wanted to show it. Classical Idumea, right? Where is it? Come on. All right, it says the Idumeans were subdued by the Hasmonean leader John Hyrcanus, who forcibly converted them, among others, to Judaism and incorporated them into the Jewish religion. Antipater the Idumean, the progenitor of the Herodian dynasty, along with Judean progenitors that ruled Judea after the Roman conquest, was of Edom origin. All right. Antipater the Idumean was of what? Edomite origin. All right. So when you see Idumean, it's spoken of in the in the Maccabees, and also here that's speaking of Edom. All right. I believe it's also in Ezekiel the 36th chapter. But let me go back. All right. It says, "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea." Could also do this, as you see here, Edom. "And upon the people of my curse. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, with the blood of lambs and of goats, and the fat of kidneys of rams. For the Lord has a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea." Now, when you read it, let's continue. "And the unicorns shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness." This is also speaking prophetically of Babylon the Great America, all right, which is labeled as Edom. Okay. It says, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Israel. All right. Now, remember, it says this is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of the recompenses for the controversy of Israel. Let's see what that says in NLT. All right. It says, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, the year when Edom will be paid back for all it did to Israel. Now, when you go back to this, it says reasons are given for the severe dealings with Babylon. Those that are employed in this war, if they please, know the grounds of it, and be satisfied in the justice of it, which it is fit all should be that are called for such work. Babylon has been very troublesome, vexatious, and injurious to all its neighbors, as it has been the hammer of the whole earth. And that's why now in America, okay, in other parts of the world, in Iraq, they got a day where they burn American flags. In Iran, okay, they call America the Great Satan, and they burn American flags. All right, all across the world, people have disdain of America because of the way that it deals unjustly. All right, it goes around saying that they're promoting democracy, but really they're promoting a destruction of people's way of living, their culture. Okay, and they try to do it to Syria, but Syria had the Russians as their guard. Okay, but they did it to Libya. All right, they did it to Saddam, Iraq. Okay, Afghanistan. You see? So it says the hammer of the whole earth. That America is the hammer of the whole earth. It says beating down and beating to pieces all nations far and near. It has done so long enough. It is time now that it be cut into sunder and broken. Note, he that is the God of the nations will sooner or later assert the injured rights of nations against those that unjustly and violently invade them. The God of the whole earth will break the hammer of the earth. Babylon has been defiant, has been in defiance to God himself. Thou hast striven against the Lord, thou hast joint issued with him. So the word signifies as in law in battle, and has openly opposed him. Hey, let's get that. Second Thessalonians 2. It speaks about the one who opposes. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3, it says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High, or that is worshipped, so that he as the Most High sitteth in a temple of the Most High, showing himself that he is the Most High. All right. And then it says, then shall that wicked be revealed. And that's speaking of who? Esau, Edom. All right. So Esau, Edom is directly tied to the prophetic Babylon, man. All right, let's read a little bit more in here. It says, has openly opposed him, set up rivals with him, raised rebellion against him. Therefore, thou art now found and caught as in a snare. Note, those that strive against the Lord will soon find themselves overmatched. Hey, and that's why the Lord has allowed Esau to build up his technology. Okay, they got the Space Force. They got, the different weaponry, so that the Lord can gather them together to fight against his son Yahawashi when he comes with the angels. And in that fight, Esau thinks that he's going to have some type of way or technological weaponry to fight against the Lord. But it tells you in 2 Ezra, the 13th chapter, that Esau's military, their fighters are going to be so afraid, but the Lord's going to put it in their spirit to fight, man, just so that just so the Lord can show that Yahawah, bahasham Yahawashi, is the one and only true power. Okay, and He's going to destroy all of their weapons, man, all of their fighter jets, all of their evil inventions are going to be completely and utterly wasted. It says, Babylon ruined Jerusalem, the holy city, and the holy house there, and must now be called to account for that. This is the manifesto published in Zion in the day of Babylon visitation. It is the vengeance of the Lord our power, the vengeance of His temple. The burning of the temple and the carrying away of the vessels were articles in the charge against Babylon, which greater stress was laid than upon its being the hammer of the whole earth. For Zion was the joy and glory of the whole earth. Note, whatever wrong is done to God's church, aka the Israelites, the elect of Israel, His temple in the world, it will certainly be reckoned for, and no vengeance will be sorer nor heavier than the vengeance of the temple. Yeah, man. It says Israel's suffering and the deliverance out of those sufferings. God takes notice on the bondage of His people in Babylon as He did in the bondage in Egypt. He has surely seen it and has heard their cry. Israel and Judah was oppressed together, blah, blah, blah. Let's jump down. All right, here we go. This is what I wanted. It says Babylon's sin and their punishment for sin. It says the sins they are charged with are idolatry and persecution. Now, is that not America? America is set up with nothing but idolatry and persecution. Persecution of who? The Israelites. It says they oppressed the people of God. They held them fast and would not let them go. They opened not the house of their prisoners. This was God's quarrel with them as of old with Pharaoh. Same thing written in Isaiah, the 34th chapter, where it says here, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of the recompenses for the controversy of Israel, meaning all the wrongdoings that were done to Israel. And this is speaking about Idumea, right? And the same judgment that Idumea got, we're reading Babylon the Great is getting. It says the streams thereof shall be turned into pitch, and the dust thereof into brimstone, and the land thereof shall become a burning pitch. It shall not be quenched day nor night. The smoke thereof shall go up forever. From generation to generation it shall lie waste. None shall pass through it forever and ever. Now, isn't that we just read that here? Therefore, the wild beast of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls there shall dwell therein. It shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, in the neighboring cities thereof, saith the Lord, shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Let's tie that to Revelation, the 18th chapter. It's a lot here, not 18, Revelation 14. It says, Revelation 14, verse 10. It says, actually, start at 8. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she had made the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them with a loud voice, saying, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark on his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they shall have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Same thing that we just read right here. the smoke, right, thereof shall go up forever. And how is that going to happen? By way of the destruction, the second death, which is going to come during the Third World War, all right, which is going to burn America, burn Edom, burn prophetic Babylon. All are the same. Okay. Hey, jump here. It says the wild beasts of the deserts shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow, and the screech owl shall rest there and shall find her place of rest. Okay. Yeah, so let's finish this out. It says, I'm gonna jump to 44. It says, behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may point over her? For who is like me, and who will I appoint me the time? And who is like the shepherd, and who is that shepherd that will stand before me? And that's speaking of Yahawashi, man. Yahawashi is that shepherd that is appointed to this time of the destruction of ancient Babylon the Great. Not ancient Babylon, Babylon the Great. It says, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord that he has taken against Babylon, and his purpose that he has purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. And that is the same thing that is said in the last 2-3 verses of the prophecy against Edom. All right. Same thing that we just read. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he has taken against Edom. So Jeremiah gave the same prophecy of Edom that he gave to Babylon. All he did was switch Edom to the name Babylon. And remember that this prophecy of Babylon, that Edom is that Jeremiah is saying, is of the future Babylon. Okay, so the future Babylon is synonymous to Edom, and Edom is synonymous to who? America. It says, in the purpose that he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate. All right, same exact thing. And that noise is speaking of what? The destruction, the missiles hitting, man. All right, and it says at the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations. Because in Revelation, the 18th chapter, it tells you that all nations are going to see this, man. All nations are going to see Babylon fall. Revelation 18, verse 9. And the kings of the earth who has committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. We just read about in Isaiah the 34th chapter about Idumea smoke burning from generation to generation. It says, standing afar off from the fear of her torment, saying, at last, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. You see? So the world is going to see America be destroyed, man. Babylon the Great, Edom. And then Yahawashi returning, and that destruction is going to be accompanied with our salvation. Yeah. Yep. Says the word here for the idols and the proper signified terrors, the name given to the giants that were formidable because they made their images of gods to look frightful, to strike terror upon fools and children. Blah, blah, blah. Babylon was the mother of harlots, the source of idolatry. Note, it is a maddening thing to in the world to make a god of any creature, and those who are proud against the Lord, the true God, are justly given up to strong delusions and made mad upon the idols that cannot profit. But this madness is wickedness, for which sinners will be certainly and severely reckoned with. Okay, so yeah, man. So yeah, let's look and read this. It says, this was foretold concerning Babylon. All right, Isaiah the 13th chapter. It shall become like Sodom and Egypt. The same was foretold concerning Edom, as the Chaldeans had laid waste Edom. Now they go off here because the Chaldeans didn't lay waste Edom. Okay, Edom, they were they didn't get completely and utterly destroyed and wasn't left inhabited, because Edom still had people that that were that lived there. That's how you got Antipater the Edomite. Okay, so it says, so shall that, but Edom, the Chaldeans and Edom, those are connected. It says, so shall they be waste themselves, shall be laid waste, and that's speaking, talking about the future. All right. Yeah. So let's get let's check this out, because when you read, where is it at? When you read, so this is talking about Edom, right? Also, Edom should be a desolation, and everyone that goeth upon it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at all of her plagues, as in the overthrow of Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities thereof, saith the Lord, no man shall be abided. Now, when you read different cross references, it connects it straight to Babylon. All right, Isaiah the 13th chapter, 2 Peter the 2nd chapter, turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them example unto them that shall live ungodly. All right, Jude the 1st chapter, 1 and 7. Okay, Isaiah the 34th chapter, which we just read. All right, Job the 18th chapter, which speaks about the dwelling places. It says, it shall dwell in his tabernacle, because it is none of him. Brimstone shall be scattered upon his habitation. His root shall be dried up beneath, and above shall his branch be cut off. His remembrance shall perish from the earth, and he shall have no name in the street. He shall be driven from light into darkness and chased out of the world. All right, and Job the 18th chapter, I believe it ends. It says, this is the portion of a wicked man, and that ties it straight to Esau. Okay, and here you have Revelation the 18th chapter, speaks of Babylon the Great being destroyed, but this connects it. Like I said, it's a cross reference speaking about who? Edom. All right, so you know, the pieces of the puzzle, man, through the spirit are plain, are connected. All right, so you know, I'm gonna end it there, Lord willing. You know, I know this was long-winded, but Lord willing, it was edifying, and you know, it brought some edification and light and understanding of Esau, Edom being tied directly to you know, prophetic Babylon, or Babylon the Great. Okay, and their judgments being one and the same. So, you know, with that, Lord willing, this is edifying unto the elect, giving all praises, honor, and glory to YAHAWAH, bahasham Yahawashi, bahasham Rakak Wadash. Till next time, Shalom.